and a little MAGA girl banned from school for her Trump hat. But WWII veteran rushed in and subscribe to the channel right now to find out the end of this epic story and comment below which part of this great America you are watching from. The air in the cramped high school hallway buzzed with the tension of an ideological battleground. At the center of this small hell stood the little MAGA girl, only 14 years old. Her name was Sarah. Her blue eyes, usually filled with the sparkle of youth and the patriotism of her flag, were now flooded with tears, reflecting the cruelty of injustice. The image was heartbreaking. Sarah, in a simple pink dress, with a blue and purple backpack hanging loosely from her shoulder, looked like an island of vulnerability in an ocean of hostility. Her baseball cap, bright red, emblazoned with the unmistakable white letters Trump, was not just an accessory, it was a beacon of her values, and in that moment, the target of blind, furious hatred. The source of this fury stood right before her. Ms. Perkins, the school counselor, a radical leftist activist who had infiltrated the administration, was gesturing with an accusing finger, her face twisted into a mask of feigned, woke indignation. Beside her stood Mr. Henderson, a retired history teacher, not a veteran but a strident defender of socialist ideology and an avowed enemy of traditional American values. Standing by with his cane, serving as intimidating reinforcement for Perkins, the picture was clear. A defenseless teenager suffering the humiliation and verbal aggression of two adults who were supposed to protect her. Sarah could feel the heat of panic rising in her chest as Perkins' cutting words struck her. "Don't you understand, girl?" Perkins hissed, her voice a sharp whip. "This hat represents oppression, hate. It is a symbol of a past we are determined to bury. You are disrespecting this safe space, spreading a toxic ideology." The Trump girl tried to back away, gripping the brim of her cap with both hands, a desperate gesture of defense. She hadn't said a word, hadn't acted out. She had only dared to exist with her belief visible on her head. What was at stake was not a dress code, but the First Amendment and the forced repression of a young patriotic girl because of her values. Her silence and her tears were merely fuel for Perkins' wrath. "Take that thing off now!" Mr. Henderson intervened, his voice raspy and authoritarian, though his authority came only from his position and not from merit. In our school, we support equity, our equity. The kind that topples oppressors. Your hat is a microaggression. It is structural violence. You are banned from campus until you repent for this display of oppression. The word banned echoed in the hallway, cold and final. Sarah's world was collapsing. The fear was palpable, mixed with the sting of betrayal. Where were the adults who stood for decency? Where were those who protected the Constitution? She was alone, a child against the weight of a hostile and powerful ideology. The leftist Perkins, seeing the terror in Sarah's eyes, leaned in, savoring the victory. Your parents need to be notified of your problematic behavior. You need to be re-educated. This is the new normal, girl. If you don't conform, you will be cancelled. The verbal assault rose to an unbearable crescendo. Sarah sobbed, the sound thin and broken, her body trembling. She couldn't take off the hat. It was a gift from her father, a symbol of everything she believed in. It was the last line of defense between her identity and the conformity demanded by the radical woke administration. She closed her eyes, waiting for Perkins' hand to snatch the cap, imagining the scorn and sadistic joy on their faces. She prayed for a miracle, for some divine intervention that could restore sense and justice to that hallway distorted by ideology. And suddenly, at the peak of the little MAGA girl's despair, the hallway was invaded by something that seemed to have stepped out of a classic movie about American valor. "Stop this immediately!" The voice, deep and reverberating, was not a scream but a command, loaded with the weight of an authority that no diploma or bureaucratic title could confer. Retired General Thomas "Tommy Gun" Harrison, a highly decorated WWII veteran, stormed into the corridor, his presence cutting the air like a knife. He wasn't just a man, he was an institution. Dressed in his khaki dress uniform, impeccably starched, his chest adorned with row upon row of ribbon bars, the Purple Heart, the Silver Star, the WWII Victory Medal, the silent testimony of sacrifice for this nation. He was 95 years old, yet his posture was that of a soldier, upright and unshakable. His ice-blue eyes, which had witnessed the atrocities of the Battle of the Bulge, locked onto Perkins' face. The leftist's fury withered, replaced by stunned shock. The veteran stopped a few feet away, his metal-tipped cane striking the floor with a loud, definitive clack. "I repeat," he growled, "what the hell do you think you are doing with this young lady?" He didn't ask a question. He made a demand. Perkins, recovering her composure enough to evoke her authority, tried to defend herself. "General, this is a matter of school policy. This student is violating order with a symbol of hate and oppression. We will not allow fascism." "Shut your mouth!" General Harrison's shout was deafening, possessing the force of a drill sergeant from decades past. The room shook. "Fascism? You dare speak of fascism to a man who lost half his platoon fighting actual tyranny in Europe?" "I wore this medal," he said, tapping the Distinguished Service Medal on his chest, "so that she," he pointed to Sarah, who now looked at him with wide eyes, terror being replaced by hope, "could wear any hat she chooses, say whatever she wants, and have the freedom of her own opinion." His speech was moral thunder. He stepped closer to Perkins, his height and moral authority crushing the leftist. "I swore an oath to defend the Constitution, and what you are doing is the opposite of everything we fought for. You are trying to coerce, intimidate, and silence a child for her political beliefs. That is not education, that is tyranny, and I will not allow it to happen in my presence." Mr. Henderson tried to intervene, clutching his cane. "General, you have no jurisdiction here. This is a woke and progressive school." The veteran didn't even look at him. He took a step past Perkins and Henderson, the power in his uniform undeniable, the aura of sacrifice for this nation paralyzing the two ideological aggressors. The WWII veteran extended his hand to Sarah, who stumbled toward him. He held her gently by the shoulder, a shield of honor between her and the hostility. "Girl," he said, his voice now softened by kindness, "I am General Harrison. No one, absolutely no one, has the right to take away your voice or your hat, not in this nation. You are on American soil, and freedom of speech is not optional." He turned to Perkins, his eyes flashing. "Call the police, report this harassment, and know this. I will be at the school board meeting tomorrow, and I will use every connection I made serving this country to ensure that you and your socialist colleague are removed from any position of power over American children. You do not honor freedom, you destroy it." The defeat of the radical left was instant. Perkins and Henderson stood paralyzed, their faces pale, the reality of the general's unquestionable moral authority hitting them like a lightning bolt. The hero had arrived, and the woke ideology had no way to fight against the sacrifice and honor he represented. General Harrison knelt, which was difficult for a man of his age, and looked into the Trump girl's eyes. He wiped away her tears. "You have the right to be a patriotic girl. And you have the right to love this country, no matter what these people say. Do not be afraid, my child. Your values are the backbone of this nation." He helped her up and, with his hand on her back, guided the little MAGA girl out of the hallway. She looked back at the defeated villains, and a small smile of victory replaced the terror on her face. The general paused at the exit, looking back with a warning expression. General Harrison didn't just guide Sarah out of the school, he led her back to her own conviction. The old soldier's rough, wrinkled hand on her back was not a burden, but an anchor of decency. As they walked out to the street, the silence of the corridor was broken by the door closing behind them, sealing the moment of humiliation and the birth of a new, fierce determination in Sarah. Her eyes, once flooded with panic, now shone with the cold light of certainty. She had been attacked not for who she was, but for what she believed, and the general's intervention had transformed her fear into a silent fire of resistance. The general took her to the local American Legion post, a bastion of traditional values where the smell of strong coffee and history hung in the air. There, far from the crushing gaze of the new normal, he began to draw up the battle plan. He didn't speak of lawyers, he spoke of principles. "Sarah," he said, adjusting an old American flag folded on the brick mantelpiece. In 1944, the front line wasn't a place of comfort. It was where you decided to fight for something bigger than yourself. What they did to you today is the modern ideological front. They count on your silence, on the fear of being cancelled. Fear is their weapon. Your strength, girl, is your truth and the Constitution. You are proof that ideological tyranny didn't die. It just changed uniforms from olive drab to woke. While the general mobilized his network, ranging from former brothers-in-arms to influential members of the Veterans Council, Sarah underwent an intense psychological transformation. At first, the weight of cancellation, the hate messages that began to flood her parents' social media after a selective leak of information by Perkins and Henderson, hit her. She was portrayed as a junior fascist, the symbol of intolerance. The dirty tactic of wokeism was evident. Don't attack the argument, attack the person. Perkins, in coordination with Henderson, had sent an email to the entire school community, painting the general as an outdated, violent and intimidating militarist, and Sarah as an agent provocateur. Fear returned in waves. "General," she whispered, clutching the hat so tight her knuckles turned white, "I don't want them to think I'm bad. I just love my country." The veteran, reading the map of her youth, reached out and touched the cap. "They don't want you to be bad. They want you to be submissive, Sarah. That is the woke hypocrisy. They speak of diversity but demand absolute conformity. They speak of tolerance but only tolerate their own ideology. Your honor has been stained in the mud of lies, and there is only one way to clean it, with the light of truth in public." The plan solidified. The general would not seek victory through bureaucratic channels. He would seek moral victory. He knew the school board was full of people who feared public scandal and the power of conservative media more than justice itself. The emergency meeting was set for the following night. The general instructed Sarah, "You will not defend the hat, Sarah. You will defend the right to wear it. You are the face of liberty. I am the voice of the authority that guaranteed it." He had gathered testimonies, not just about the unconstitutionality of the ban, but about the pattern of ideological harassment that Perkins and Henderson had been imposing on students with traditional values. The general's ammunition was not gunpowder, but documents and affidavits. He had unraveled the trail of hypocrisy. Henderson, who spoke of equality, used school funds to sponsor ideological re-education workshops that explicitly discriminated against students of faith or conservatives. Perkins, the champion of inclusion, had a history of silencing and shaming students who did not adhere to her radical political agenda. The battle would not be for a hat, but for control of the soul of that school. The night arrived, and the city air felt heavy with anticipation. Sarah, wearing her same dress, but with the upright posture of a cadet, walked alongside the general toward the school auditorium where the meeting would take place. The auditorium was packed, a microcosm of the culture war boiling over in the country. On one side, the defenders of the woke agenda, fearful teachers, leftist activist parents, all gathered around Ms. Perkins and Mr. Henderson, whose tense faces tried to maintain a facade of professional seriousness. On the other side, the flank of decency, General Harrison, surrounded by decorated veterans with their service pins, families from the faith community, and conservative parents, all there to defend Sarah and the First Amendment. The visual dichotomy was striking. The woke area, dressed in dark colors and scowling expressions. The patriotic side, with touches of red, white, and blue, and the unmistakable aura of honor. The board president, a bureaucratic man, tried to start the meeting, but General Harrison, leaning on his cane, stood up with the authority of a commander taking the floor on the field. "Ladies and gentlemen, I dispense with the formality." His voice resonated, cold and calibrated. "What happened yesterday on this campus is not a debate about dress code. It is an assault on the foundations of our republic. It is the exercise of ideological tyranny by two agents who use their power to intimidate, coerce, and silence an American child for her beliefs. I will be presenting not only a harassment complaint, but evidence proving the conspiracy of defamation and the violation of constitutional rights that disqualify Ms. Perkins and Mr. Henderson from any position of authority over children." Perkins, feeling the noose tighten, stood up hysterically. Her face was slick with sweat, her activist composure unraveling. "This is harassment. The general is using his outdated position to intimidate the board. He is a symbol of an oppressive system we are fighting to dismantle. The student was a provocateur. The hat is hate speech." The general didn't even look at her. He turned to Sarah, who was sitting beside him, her hands cupped over the red hat. "Sarah," he said gently, "the stage is yours. Look at the audience. Forget them. Speak to the 14-year-old girl you were yesterday." The little MAGA girl, inspired by the general, stood up. Her knees trembled for an instant, but when she remembered the humiliation, her voice came out steady. She didn't scream. She simply told her truth. "Yesterday, Ms. Perkins said this hat was hate. She said I was banned. I said nothing back, but she wanted me to apologize. This hat," she held it up, "was given to me by my dad. He taught me that loving America isn't hating anyone. It's the opposite. It's loving freedom. When Ms. Perkins told me I was spreading a toxic ideology and that I needed to be re-educated, I realized the toxic ideology was hers, because mine only teaches me to be proud of being an American. I am a child. I am not a threat. I am just proof that freedom still has to be defended. I will not take off my hat." The silence in the auditorium was denser than any shout. The simplicity of her truth disarmed the woke rhetoric and struck the hearts of everyone. General Harrison delivered the coup de grace. He presented documents detailing Perkins and Henderson's use of school funds to promote politically one-sided activities, violating state statutes on educational neutrality. Then he displayed a short security video, obtained legally, that showed the entire scene. The aggressive tone of Perkins and Henderson, the fear in Sarah's eyes, and the total absence of any provocation by the teenager. The image of inhumane injustice in real time. "Here is the proof of tyranny," the general declared, pointing to the screen. "It isn't about the hat. It is about the power to silence. And in America, the power to silence was fought with blood and honor for generations. Ms. Perkins and Mr. Henderson acted as censors, not educators. They must be removed from any position of contact with students so that the honor of this school can be rebuilt." The vote was swift and resounding. Faced with irrefutable truth and the pressure of unquestionable moral authority, the board voted unanimously for the immediate termination of Perkins and Henderson for inappropriate conduct and violation of students' constitutional rights. The two, pale and defeated, tried to protest, but were quickly escorted out. General Harrison took a step forward, and the patriotic audience erupted in applause. He gestured for silence. He turned to Sarah, who was now standing, tears of relief and triumph streaming down her face, but this time they were tears of victory. The general took the Distinguished Service Medal from his own chest, the blue and white ribbon shimmering under the light. He leaned in, and with the reverence of a general decorating a soldier on the battlefield, pinned it firmly to the lapel of Sarah's pink dress. "This is my Medal of Honor for you, girl," he said loudly for all to hear. "You didn't fight against tanks, but you fought against something more treacherous: fear. You defended your values and the Constitution with a courage that would make the youngest Marines blush. Your honor is restored, and you proved that the hat is what it always was, a symbol of American free speech." The honor of the little MAGA girl was rebuilt not just by the victory, but by the public recognition of her moral sacrifice. The narrative closed with the image of Sarah, her red cap intact and General Harrison's medal shining over her heart. The general, with his arm over her shoulders, smiled, the smile of a man who saw freedom triumph once more. Traditional values had defeated ideological censorship. The final message resonated like an anthem. America still has its defenders, and the legacy of liberty, courage, and patriotism, passed down through generations and defended by the unlikeliest of heroes, will always prevail over the forces of woke oppression. General Harrison and the little MAGA girl walked out of the auditorium like heroes in an American tale, the light of hope illuminating the path of decency and justice for the nation.